to the Sequoya Show with serial entrepreneur and your host, me, Sequoya Moe-Willis. I bring to you guests who discover key habits and success tips that they are sharing from their personal stories. Today's episode is titled Resilience in Love and is with my special guest, Tyrell Madison, who is from the Brownsville section of Brooklyn, New York. He has a degree in science from Tyrell University with a major in human services. He is happily married with 3 amazing boys. With the inspiration from his union with his wife, he wanted to publish a book that would have helped him when he was in need of guidance early on in his marriage. Through his studies and experience with his marriage, he's fully aware of the cause and effect of a couple that do not do their due diligence. He states that couples should learn and prepare before they act on love and marriage. His book is now available on Amazon, Amazon Kindle, Audible, Goodreads, and Apple Music. Tyrell Madison is the author of Marriage, Things to Consider Before Saying I Do. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Tyrell Madison. Tyrell, thank you for being here. We really appreciate you joining us today to share your expertise. I have Tyrell here on the show because I read his book, and I believe that what he wrote in his book is really beneficial to all of us in marriages and relationships and everything that we do regarding love. But really, you focused on a lot on marriages, Tyrell. But I wanted you here because the tone of your book made me feel as though you really have some wisdom when it comes to love. Because before you can love a partner, there's a lot of other love that you have to distribute when it comes to people and yourself. So the first question I want to start with right now is, when you were younger, what did love mean to you? Not now, but when you were younger, what did it mean to you?
To me, when I was younger, love meant a lot. My family, I had a big family, still do. We show a lot of love, but in my household, love wasn't really shown as often as I would like. My parents wasn't really affectionate, so I didn't understand what love was. Growing up, it was a little confusing for me because it wasn't what I saw on TV. It wasn't what I saw my friends have with their families coming up back in the days. And, you know, being there for my siblings and all that, that's the only reason why I figured it out kind of growing up, because I knew protection was the key with them.
How did your how did the way your family interacted and the affection and the love and stuff affect you when you were younger? Like what was the cause, and we know what the cause was, right? But what was the effect of that?
Good question. The effect was, me growing up not knowing. I had to grow up and figure it out. I had to grow up and not do research, but like kind of like mimic what other people did and utilize whatever information I got from other people just by looking at them, watching them, how they act with their families and their significant others. I did a lot of you know, alone time. I had to figure me out before I had to like figure the world out. And I didn't understand myself because I didn't know what love was. And that stopped me from growing early on.
You mentioned that there were some things that you picked up from your mother that was really positive, and some things that you learned, because we started talking about like learned behavior. You mentioned about being protective of your siblings and things like that. Can you go a little bit more into that right now too?
Kind of like for my dad was just, self-explanatory. He just was a person that just did his job, clocked in and clocked out. He was a great provider. My mom, on the other hand, she was a great provider as well, but it seems like at times she was cold. She didn't know how to, really show love. And it was difficult for her to do that because of, I believe, her upbringing. After talking to her like years later, she was raised a certain way, and I think, like you said, the learned behavior, she learned to raise her kids the way she was brought up, and that kind of like messed our relationship up at first, but understanding that my mom is a human and my mom had the upbringing and my mom learned to do things certain ways, I couldn't really stay upset at her because of what she knew, you know.
How did that affect you with friends? Because we have love in that area too.
So growing up, my dad made sure like every Friday and Saturday was like turn up. My dad used to be a DJ back in the day, so there was a party at my house like every weekend, literally every weekend. He used to call us out to do the Jackson Five and the Five Heartbeats and everything. But still, like that moment was maybe like one of the few times I thought I was feeling love. But with all those adults around, you still feel alone because like you just entertainment. Like why am I here? Now with that being said, like that transitions into like my household and my friendships. It was kind of hard for me not to make friends, but to make have a best friend. Like I'm 34 years old and I've never had a best friend in my life. And it may seem odd, but the word best friend, is a daring word, and I don't think I've ever felt that type of love for a friend because I didn't understand what love was growing up. Now, fast forward to today's time, my best friend is my wife, of course. And that's someone, who I love and who I trust. But
Mhm.
growing up and not being able to figure out what love was stopped me from having that bond that a lot of people have. And I think I missed out on that.
So, when and how did love change for you? So, after that adolescence and teenage portion of your life, growing up, learning different types of behaviors, watching how your parents did what they did the best way they knew how to do, right? And then identifying, I don't even know when you begin to identify um, the differences and what you learned from those behaviors, but not behaviors, but those scenarios. When and how did love change for you after your like teenage years?
I would have to say love changed for me when my wife and I had our first child. It just changed my whole world. It changed my perspectives. It changed my approaches because I knew for sure I had to like love without ego. It wasn't about me at that point. Even though I was with my wife, she was my girlfriend at the time, but having that first child changed how you feel about love, that I would do anything for this human being type of love. And I don't think I've ever felt that in my life growing up. Maybe it was there. Maybe I didn't know how to recognize it. I'm not going to dismiss the fact that maybe it was there. Maybe they showed it in their own way, but I make sure with my children to show it every chance I get, to show them that I love them, to show them that I will always protect them no matter what, wrong or bad. I would make sure that they can have the world if they want it, and that was
Yeah,
something.
nope, go ahead.
Yeah, and that was something I don't think I really got growing up. For me, I was a really smart kid growing up, so they just threw me out there and say, "Yo, figure it out." Kind of. I was the one child that's gonna buy the parent the house and make sure we get out the hood and everything. That was me. Everything was put on me, and that was a lot of pressure without love. Maybe if the love was there, it could have easily balanced it out, but that brought on a lot of stress for me. But I make sure to do things opposite for my kids. I set my kids up for success, not make them figure it out.
Mm, that was really deep. You know, everything you said is stuff that hits home for a lot of us, right? I know it hits home for me, and I know it hits home for a lot of people in the audience, especially when it comes to having your first child. Something just clicks, right? You just start thinking different, moving different. and you feel something different. Like you mentioned, like before, certain things were done out of stress. Like I don't want to disappoint. I don't want anybody else to feel like how I feel. Some examples of that. Um, but a lot of people say that when they have their first children, the first child or their children, something changes. So I imagine that has to be an internal thing. It happened to me too, right? It had to do something internally first. What does that look like? Like what changes, or do you agree with that? Did it happen internally for you? And if so, what did that look and feel like?
Yeah, indeed. It very much so was internal for me. I had to like change the way I did things, even my thinking process. Cause I used to just think that, the, the home is okay, my girl's gonna be okay, and just go to work, make money, like routine, like how my dad used to do. But a lot of the times, my dad didn't really spend a lot of time with us because he was, busy sleeping. He worked long hours, he worked overnight, and I get it, but I just wanted to make sure like I moved a little different, you know. It's kind of hard to explain, but just being there, being the protector, being a friend, being a teacher, like. But it started with me, and my wife helped me, of course, to figure that out.
Yeah, because I can only imagine, right? No, no, let me stop saying I can only imagine because I had to do that same kind of work. Um, and one thing I know from me is that it started with me learning what love is for me and to me, from me, for me. And some people might say it may not start from that, right? But when I looked at my first child, when I pushed, and all of my children, right? But when I delivered and pushed him out and I looked at him, I kind of had a different kind of love for myself. Like, wow, you did this. Like, like this you. And 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 now I got something to live for. Like I have to be okay for this little person to be okay, or I have to, even if I'm not okay, I got to figure it out. And that's kind of a form of love too. What do you got to say about that? Like when it comes to like a personal thing and a loving yourself first, even if you don't even know what that means or doing it correctly. What are your thoughts about that?
I agree with you. You absolutely have to like learn to love yourself, especially before you get into relationships, before you even have children. But a lot of the times we're so busy with life, we stop trying to figure us out. We just go with the flow. For me, I started to love myself. I'm admitting this now. Way after my third child, I didn't really love myself because I never did anything for me. Everything I did was for everybody else. One of the traits, like you spoke of, my mom, very caring. She raised a lot of children. That's one thing about me, to a fault, But it wasn't until like my third child where I'm like, I had to take a step back, and my wife was like, "Yo, what do you want to do? How are you gonna love you? You love us. You show us every day you love us, but you don't love yourself as much as you love us. And for you to stick around long enough, I want you to understand you." So with the help of my wife, I started doing things like I went back to school. I wrote a book. I did a lot of things, and that's because I loved me. I had to figure me out. Went to therapy, to talk my issues out from before. So absolutely, you have to love yourself before you can love anybody else. And you hear that a lot, but a lot of people don't know what that means. But it's absolutely true.
It sounds cliche. It sounds like people like you got to love yourself first, and it sounds like the people who say that, even when I just said it, right? They just were born like I'm going to love myself first, right? But that's not how it happens. I'm doing everything to help everyone, family members, children, spouse, friends, because I love them, I feel like I gotta be here for them. But your wife said, what do you want to do? We know that you love us, but what are you going to do? Like, how easy or hard was that for you? Was that easy? Did you just say, you're right, I know exactly what to do?
No, absolutely not. It was very, very difficult to figure that out because, it don't come, it's not first nature for me to think about myself. So I had to like figure it out. And, the pandemic helped me figure it out. I had no choice but to look in the mirror every day and had to figure it out. I wasn't busy. I worked from
Mm-hmm.
home. I was with my kids at home. I have nothing really to do. So I had to like figure it out. And these long conversations I had with my wife changed my perspective on things. And then, me going back to school and the topics we were discussing in class, it's kind of like a little support group, those little classes. And you end up
Yep.
talking about things you don't usually share. And then you're listening to yourself while you speak about these things like, oh, wow.
Yep.
Wow, yeah, that's how it's supposed to be. This is how I'm supposed to love myself. This is the approach I'm supposed to take, opposed to just thinking about everything else besides you. And it's
Yeah.
okay. Somebody told me this one time, it's okay to be selfish. It's okay to think about you. It's okay to take a minute, take a mental health day, zen out, do mindfulness. It's okay to do that. And prior to that conversation with my wife, I never did that. It was
Yeah.
always fast paced with me. And it's I stumbled along the way, but I just thought that was just growing pains.
Yeah.
But I was just making my own mistakes.
You know, and I know, again, we had a pre-interview and we going off script, but it's okay because that means it's on script, right? It means we're being authentic and apparent, transparent. So there are a few things that I want to ask you. So one, you mentioned therapy, and in our community, in the Black community, and in other families and communities and cultures too. Because when I was in college, I learned different things, and I had to write a paper on different cultures. And what I learned is that a lot of our cultures are more similar than we think, especially when it relates to therapy. There is embarrassment, right? Or you're going to embarrass the family, or people are going to think you're crazy. And so we live our lives holding all of this stuff in, trying to figure it out. Might pick up a self help book here or there, right? But we don't understand or think or know that it can be therapy is beneficial. What would you say to somebody right now who would say, I'm not going to see a therapist, I'm not crazy, I'm not getting ready to do any of that right now? Like, what would you say to somebody? Because see, resilience and love and loving yourself, it starts a lot of the times with healing heartbreak. And the heartbreak could be from when we're younger. The heartbreak can be from parents, it could be from friends, it could be from a significant other, it can be from ourselves, right? Disappointment. And resilience and love and loving ourselves has to do with our mental health. And we don't realize that our health includes our mental health. What would you say to somebody who's like, man, listen, I'm not doing that?
I would tell them not I would tell them not to be afraid of themselves. A lot of the times people refuse to go to therapy not because it's embarrassing to the family or whatever. They just ashamed, or they may feel ashamed about what may come out, how they truly feel. And I understand that, and I kind of went through that. But as my doctor once told me that stress will kill you faster than the bullet would, and I didn't really understand that. And he told me that at 19. Now I believe if I would have had therapy, somebody would have told me about therapy at 19, I think I would have been better off growing up. Especially before having children. But therapy is the one of the greatest things I've ever done in my life. And honestly, I started therapy after my brother passed last year. And that just took a toll on me mentally. I didn't show it, but it took a toll on me because during the pandemic, coming from where I come from, I just saw a lot of people my age just dying. And then
Mm.
my brother was just he was just the last one, and it messed me up. So I had to clear my mind. I had to talk to somebody. Even though therapy is not conventional for everybody, therapy comes in all forms. You don't have to sit down and sit across from somebody or lay on the couch. Therapy comes in all forms. So just talking to somebody, just getting it off your chest, talk to the person that you have an issue with, communicating. That's how I got through with my mom. That's how I understood, like, wow, my mom had a rough upbringing too, so I get it. Instead of me being so hard on someone, therapy taught me to appreciate the person, learn the person before jumping to conclusions and just holding them hostage because of a moment, you know?
Relief to You is one of our sponsors this season on the Sequoya Show. You can find out more about Relief to You by visiting their website, relief2you.com. Thank you, Relief to You, for sending these gifts for my interviewees and guests of the show. Relief to You is a natural brand that focuses on benefits instead of the prettiness, color, or smell of a product. It's about relieving the feeling you get from uncomfortable problems such as eczema, irritated scalp, dry skin, or painful conditions. We believe solving a problem in the natural world is how we stop bad side effects in the chemical world, says Relief to You. They sell the benefits. Try Relief to You today at relief2you.com. You can also get specialized or personalized gifts for goodie bags to give to your friends or just to put in your purse. Enjoy a 10% discount off of your order by using code NEWLIFE and visiting relief2you.com. You can also follow Relief to You on Facebook by going to Relief to You or on Instagram at Relief to You. Now back to the show. And a lot of people don't understand that when you kind of do that communication piece and you kind of try to understand, sometimes healing and love, a lot of people, they're like, I don't want to give another person a chance because I don't want them to think that I care. But in all actuality, you do care and it's hurting you. And like your doctor said, like stress will kill somebody, will kill you faster than a bullet will. Not only that, it will torture you and it will eat you alive bit by bit from the inside. And studies have shown that health issues, like physical health, body health issues, internal and external, occur because of stress. And that stress, a lot of the times, because we feel someone doesn't love us. We don't understand why they treated us a certain way. And I tell people that when I wrote my first two books, what helped me was it was so therapeutic. Speaking about therapy, right? Like we could write it down, we can have these conversations. But family members started reaching out to me that I haven't spoken to in years from different sides of my family, but really my mom's side. And I asked a lot of different questions because I didn't understand. And she wasn't giving me the information that I needed, maybe because she has to do her own self healing or her own healing, right? But they gave me answers. And what I learned was they didn't really mean to do this thing to me or this stuff to me, right? Like this is what they knew or learned to do, like we spoke about learned behaviors. And it was kind of healing for me. And I didn't think it was going to be that way. It helped me understand. And it also helped me understand when Jesus said, he said, forgive them for they know not what they're doing. And that's when that hit me. And I'm like, damn. This is therapeutic. Therapy is working in whatever form that you have it in. So you're right. And it kind of is a weight off your shoulders.
Yeah, I read your books. I read your books, amazing books, by the way. And that kind of inspired me to kind of do the same thing. I know I have a book on marriage, but I think I have a lot of things to get off my chest. So I think that would be the form that I would actually do it in. So I appreciate you for inspiring me to want to go that route.
I appreciate that. And that's why I have you on the show, because I don't like when we speak about therapy and stuff like that, I went to therapy when I was in foster care. And I felt like it was BS, right? I felt like those people just wanted to check. They was doing the same routine thing. They never been through anything I've been through. I just couldn't relate. But when I read your book, I was like, damn. Like, and it was, let me tell y'all something. We are in a busy world today. And we think that if we're going to read a self-help book or a marriage book or a book about love, that is going to take too much of our time. You need to get his book. We're going to speak more about that towards the end of how you can get it. But you need to get this book because it's not going to take a long time out of your life. And you're going to pick up on so many different nuggets. That's what I appreciated about your book, because I wish I had your book when I was battling with relationships. The way you break it down, and we'll get into that stuff. But I commend you. I'm glad that I was able to like be some type of form of inspiration when it came to the book, to you writing. But man, you did a really great job with your book. But we're gonna get to that. Let me ask you this, right? Because you're married now. You learn different things from each other right now, right? But you weren't always married and you were in other relationships before. How were those relationships? Like, was there love in that relationship, in those relationships? Was it toxic? Do you wish you knew then what you know now? Tell me about those relationships.
Prior to marrying my wife and dating my wife, I maybe had like one or two serious relationships. One was very toxic. But the other one, it was like my high school sweetheart. I was with that young lady for what, maybe 6 years. So that's most of my adolescent years, and we grew together and we learned how to love together. Now, for me, I love the way I thought my dad loved my mom. So just providing, just being there, just being supportive was all I really did. I didn't really know how to be romantic. I didn't really know how to, like, open the car door and pull the chair out. I wasn't taught none of that stuff. So I don't know if that played a part in why we wasn't together after, but at the end of the day, me loving or learning how to love growing up, I think it messed my relationship up because I didn't know how to show it all the time. Because I took after my mom a lot. I did things that seemed special. I did things that show love, but when the person still don't feel that love, then they feel absent from the relationship at times. So, I had to learn, it's just trial and error.
And that's what I was going to ask you. That's exactly what I was going to ask you, because you said it was 6 years. And you also said your mom and dad are still together. And listen, everybody loves everyone, each other in different ways, right? Because they say opposites attract. They say after a while, and I know because I've been married for a while, I've been in a relationship for a very long time. So after a while, when you move through certain stages, right, some things is just like, I ain't paying you no mind. Go ahead and just talk whatever you want to talk, right? But this is the way we love each other. But also, what I know is that you could either be together for a long time and continue to do what you've learned or what you've been doing, and there's no growth in that relationship. You just feel like this is what I'm supposed to do. And each person can be miserable or content, right? And then there's a such thing as there is growth in a relationship. And you both learn to love yourselves and each other more. When you love yourself and learn yourself more, you can learn and love other people more, right? But it starts with you a lot of the times. Do you think that you stay, and I think you answered it, but I want to know if you had any more to elaborate on. Do you think you stayed in that relationship for 6 years because of what you saw your parents staying together? And a lot of us saw that, right? Our parents just stayed together. My parents were abusive to one another. And I'm like, leave, like, and it's like, that's my husband. I love him. Right. So do you think that made a difference on why you stayed as long? And then what is the difference in your marriage or your relationship now, as far as why you stay this long and things like that?
Honestly, I would say, yeah. Everybody, including my parents, have aunts and uncles that's been together for a long time, 30 plus years, without even being married. My parents are married, but I saw this. Even
Mm-hmm.
though their love wasn't what I thought it should be, their
Mm-hmm.
love was their love. And they stayed together throughout my whole life. You know, my parents been together since they were 12. So that's the one thing about their relationship that I wanted. I never was that guy to hop from relationship to relationship, looking for love. I wanted one person and I wanted to figure it out. But my relationship with my high school sweetheart just hit a ceiling. There was no growth there. And it's okay. Sometimes we grow apart. And I think that's what happened with me and the young lady.
Wow, hit a ceiling. Hit a ceiling. Now, you know, we probably could have this conversation for a very long time, but I'm gonna wait because I'm gonna have you back on the show, right? Because I want to ask, and maybe in the audience, if you're watching this, Tyrell and myself will be able to look at comments and respond to it. And when I have him back on the show, or maybe we'll do a live and we can answer some of these questions. But ask your questions in the comments, and we definitely will respond and get back to you. But the title, give us the name of your book again.
The title is Marriage: Things to Consider Before Saying I Do.
So I had you repeat that, right? Because we don't be considering nothing most of the time. We just like living our dreams, right? We're dreaming, we're planning. Like I'm gonna be married by, this is women. I'm gonna be married by such and such time. I'm gonna have a fairy tale wedding. We're gonna be so in love. We're gonna have 2 to 3 kids, a cat and a dog. We're gonna live in this house. We're gonna do, we have it all planned out. And I'm sure, I don't know how the guys think, right? I don't know if the guys are like, I'm gonna marry this type of, she's gonna be a bad woman. I don't know, she's gonna be a figure 8 for the rest of her life. I don't know, what y'all think, but we all have it pre-figured out. So the things to consider before I do marriage, first you put marriage in the front, and then you put the things to consider before. What made you write this book?
During the pandemic, I was home with my wife, and during that time, a lot of people was like calling me for advice, like family members, friends, associates from work will call me and ask me for advice on like what's going on. Because me and my wife was always the fun couple. We was always the ones that always had our heads on straight. We was always the marriage that was like mimicked. So I got tired of like answering them. I'm like, let me just put it in the book.
Okay. There are a few things in your book that you speak about. Um, you reference marriage in comparison to a business or a partnership. Talk about that.
So the first thing that people don't realize when planning a wedding.
And don't give it all away.
No, of course.
Okay.
One thing that people don't really realize, and I've gotten pushback from people that read the book, but that's a conversation for another day. But when you're getting married, you're literally signing a contract. It's a contract. So if you fast forward, God forbid this don't happen, if you go to divorce, you have to go to court to do that. It's a business. People fail to understand that you're signing a contract to join with another entity to live the rest of your life together. And the sooner the people learn that, the easier it will be to process it down the road. Now, if you learn that before getting married, you can prepare for marriage in a certain way.
What I admire about the Bible are the parables. What I admire about Shakespeare's work or poetry are parables and metaphors and personification. And so, what I really, and I think when I wrote that in a review, something to that effect, I enjoyed how you did that, because I really think that you made it so clear about how important it is to do your due diligence before you go into this contractual agreement. Because if it wasn't contractual, you would not have to stand in front of a judge, right? You wouldn't have to sign a document. Like you're signing over what you want each person to have. If something happens to you, if you become incapacitated, if you just can't operate anymore, no matter what it is, this person is responsible for you now. Or this person is responsible for what you left behind. I agree with you. And I think you did a fabulous job um, comparing the two and to make it stick. And your book and your work, take it from me, is not going to be for everybody. You're not going to be everybody's coffee. They might like tea. Get out my pot. Go drink your beverage of choice. But you are for a lot of people. And I really, really enjoyed how you put that together. This season, the Sequoya Show is sponsored by Linda's Barbecue Sauce. You can find out more about Linda's Barbecue Sauce by visiting lindasbarbecuesauce.com. Linda's Barbecue Sauce is a Black-owned, family-owned business that's been operating since 2014. The company is family-based so much that the brand was named after a strong mother of 5 children. Linda strives to love, support, and take care of her family. The barbecue sauce is the foundation of their family's strength, hardworking ethics, and principles. Linda's Barbecue Sauce comes in 5 different flavors: pineapple jerk, habanero mango, peach, honey, and mandarin orange. Thank you, Linda's Barbecue Sauce, for sending these gifts to my guests and interviewees this season. If you are looking for something to put in goodie bags just for your cookouts or to have in your kitchen, contact Linda's Barbecue Sauce at 646-234-6352 or on Instagram by going to Linda's_BBQ_sauce. Now, back to our show. Due diligence. When you say do your due diligence, do your due diligence, what do you mean?
Just do your homework. Sometimes going into relationships, we tend to forget about ourselves, and we don't know what we want. So you jump into these marriages with these people, and you don't even know what you want. So how can you come out your face and say, "Oh, I want this," and expect them to give it to you? You don't know what you want. You have to learn yourself. So to start, you have to learn yourself, learn what you want, know your worth, know your identity, stick with that, and don't lose that going into a relationship. Now, when you go into a relationship, you're in a relationship is all fun, and you have to understand that at some point it's not going to be that way. So you have to like understand that there's going to be dry spells in relationships. There's going to be times where y'all don't speak. There's going to be times when y'all want to curse each other out. But you got to be willing to withstand the storm and understand that tomorrow will be a better day. And also, in before you jump the broom, I would say you got to understand what your partner needs, what they're looking for. Now, if you just look good and you can cook good, I don't think that's good enough. Sometimes people are looking for something deeper, something more. You can be something that's just for right now, but somebody's looking for that meal that's coming on Thanksgiving. You can be fast food this weekend, but most of the people are looking for Thanksgiving dinner.
They want that comfort food. They like, where's the comfort food? Like, because when you and I spoke about this, we spoke about how everybody just want that fast stuff.
Everybody's like now, especially nowadays, everybody's so quick to jump into like these relationships, and a lot of the times it don't work. And sitting back and just watching people, I'm very observant. I don't say much. I see why it don't work. You see that they didn't do the homework, and they will ask me, "Hey, Tyrell, like, what do you think?" And I'm like, "Nah, that's not gonna work." They'll ask me why, and I'm like, "You don't even know what you want." And people will literally get offended by that. Like, how you gonna tell me I don't know me? You don't, because this man is literally giving you everything you asked him for, and then you get mad at the fact that he gave this to you, or this woman is giving you everything that you want, and then there's pushback because you really don't want these things. You just saying the first thing that come to mind. You just saying whatever seems good or seems right in the moment. And when people sit down and do their due diligence with themselves, sit down and do their due diligence with their partner, they understand what's needed first, what's wanted, and what's going to make it work.
Absolutely. And that goes for friendships, that goes for family relationships, right? Because we're born into families. it doesn't necessarily mean that we would have chose these people. Let's face it. There's a lot of people that said, man, if I could have chose my family members, half of y'all wouldn't have made it in the bunch, right? So it's like, sometimes we're even thrown into situations and relationships, even with coworkers at work, and we don't really even have to love them, right? But we got to give things some time. We can't just be calling people our friends right away just because you and they nice to you. We can't be just saying, oh, this person, they're gonna love me for the rest of my life and I'm gonna marry them right now. And it's like, hold on, slow down. You just met them 2 weeks ago. Like, calm down. All right. I know you might be in lust, you might be in infatuation. You might just love the way you're being treated because you've never been treated that way before. And people are out here literally looking for vulnerable people. People go broke because they just love that somebody called them pretty. And they're like, I'm going to give him all my money, honey. But it's because he called them pretty. You know what I'm saying? So you're absolutely right. We have to slow down. And that is a part of resilience, right? Like, even when you go through something, and I'm sure you've experienced things in your relationships, in your marriage. I have, and so many people out there. There are times when you should walk away immediately, and there are times when you need to stick around and figure it out. What does that look like to you? Like, when are those times? How can you tell which is which?
Early on it was hard for me to like determine that because like my parents they just stuck through it. No matter what the issue was, they stuck with it. They old school. But for me, my relationship with my high school sweetheart, like you can see there's no growth. If we're not getting anything out of it. If it's just sex, then it's just sex. But outside of that, what are you giving to me that's gonna help me be a better me? If we're not growing together, if we're not building together, then it's pointless. But there's times where you see things like in my wife, there was times where like I just wanted to walk away before we got married. But there was something in her that like, yo, bro, you got to stick with her because she can do great things. And fast forward to today, my wife does wonderful things in our relationship and at work and with other people. People love my wife. And I honestly helped mold her to be who she is. She did a lot of the work, but I guided her in that way. And now she's doing the same for me.
That's amazing. And I like that you said you both are doing it for each other. Um, there are right now men and women who both feel like they are doing their best and they wish they had what you just said, right? Like, they are there to help mold and push and motivate. And they are like, I'm going to do this for you. And now I'm waiting my turn. And I want you to do it for me. And then they don't never really get that. Or they look on social media, or they look uh, all over the place, and they hear. So let's say for men, for instance, right? Men hear women saying there's no good men out here, and then women hear the same thing. What are your thoughts regarding that?
I just think that comes from like a toxic place. That comes from hurt. Um, I was once told, that I wasn't no good. And I didn't believe that. I believed in myself. I tend to believe in the process of love now. It takes time to find someone. Sometimes we get lucky. I think my process with my high school sweetheart taught me in a way how to show love, learning from my mistakes. So when it came to me being with my wife, I approached things differently. I moved different. I thought different. So, sometimes there are moments where, we think that there's no hope for love, but I would tell them not to give up because, again, love is resilience and resilience is love. So you just got to just, stick with it. And God willing, you'll find that special someone.
I love that. Love is resilience, and resilience is love. What what would you say about communication when it comes to love in any form of relationship?
I learned over the years and through my studies that communication is key to a long and healthy relationship with anybody. We hear this, and you know, as cliche as it may sound, it's very hard to do for some people. But the key for me is active listening. At some point, I had to like close my mouth and listen to my wife express herself. And that
Mm.
at first was something that we struggled with because she would talk, I would talk. She would talk, I would talk. And I never took the chance to not just only hear her, but understand what she's saying. I'm not listening to react, I'm listening to understand. And when I did that, everything changed with me. And practicing that with my wife helped me navigate into other relationships like with my mom, my dad, other family members. It helped me a great deal because I actually understand more. My comprehension is getting better. So with that, you tend to like empathize with them instead of being so defensive. And if you being defensive off jump, nothing's gonna be settled. So I think it's best to just sit back, listen, and understand. And for the person that's talking, I believe it's your job to talk in a way that the person is going to understand. And if that way didn't work, try a different way. But the goal is to get your point across. And I don't believe in stopping until that point is made and understood so that everything is clear, everything is out there, and then we can move on to find a resolution instead of hyping up the problem.
You get poetry snaps for that. Okay? I'm giving you all the poetry snaps. Because I don't even have anything to add to that. You said everything in a nutshell. I want you to speak to two different people. Um, and one of them, and an audience, when I'm doing this, is not for the person to literally speak to just one particular person. Whoever out there of you who is watching, somebody needs this. Somebody needs to hear this. And I hope it motivates you. I hope it encourages you. And I hope that it aligns you with who you're supposed to be with, who you're not, and just your worth. So Tyrell, for the women out there, if you was to say something to the younger version of your wife to give her some type of advice when it comes to love, thinking of your wife now and where y'all started and where you're at now, what would you say to another woman right now? I want you to look in the camera and I want you to speak.
Um, I would say be patient with love. I understand that at times, like the way you receive it is uncomfortable. The way you receive it may not seem like it's real, because a lot of the times, with young girls, young women, they tend to think, and my wife is an example of this. They tend to think like Disney fairy tale, but everything is not going to be that way all the time. And I would just want them to understand that love is real in the flesh, and it's okay to fantasize, but don't do it as much. It's okay to sit down and and just think to yourself what you want and go get it, but stick with it. And while you're doing that, don't lose your identity. A lot of the times women go chasing after jobs, they go chasing after men, they go chasing after other people and other things, and they lose track of who they are. And it's not just women, we all do it. But something I would tell my daughter if I was to have a daughter, I would tell her the same thing. Don't lose your identity in chasing after anything. Know who you are, stick with it. Be uncomfortable with love, be comfortable with love, but just know what you want.
That was dynamite. Now, I want you to also look into the camera and I want you to talk to somebody out there who is a young man who if you was to see somebody who reminded you of the younger version of yourself regarding love, what would you say?
I would tell them that it's out there. Um, it's possible. Um, I would tell them to be sensitive with love. Don't treat it like it's just something that's irrelevant, but because it's relevant to all of us. I will also tell them to don't go into these relationship with an ego, especially if you're looking for love. A lot of the times, our ego with men tends to set us back, and then we don't get what we want. Understand that our ego stops us from growing as men. It stops us from having the great relationships that we want. And it's okay in relationships to take a back seat. It's okay to let your partner lead. There's nothing wrong with that. You don't look weak. That's actually a smart move. And I'm a testament to that because I sat back and I let my wife shine for a long time. And now she's where she wanna be. She's where we want to be. And that's helping me now because she's letting me shine. So just don't be afraid to take a step back. Lose that ego. All that macho stuff is not needed in relationships.
That was excellent. So listen, I was supposed to send y'all things as my guests before we recorded. But I decided that I'm going to wait until after I record each one. So yours will be coming soon. But I've always wanted to do something, and I'm going to start it. I wanted to do it within my business, New Life LLC. And this show is a production of New Life, right? It's New Life Productions. Um, and so on this show and my relaunch, thank you for agreeing to be a part of it. It's been a few years since I've been on air. I am going to come back live one day, but right now, none of us have time. But I appreciate you taking the time out to help me uplift my audience, to allow me to help you uplift your audience, right? Because you're going to be sharing this as well. Thank you for your book. You do a lot of different things in the community. You do a lot of different things in your career, right? What can you tell everyone what you do for a living besides your book?
I currently teach at a school in Brooklyn, in Bed-Stuy, Dr. Ronald E. McNair School. I'm also a basketball coach. I'm a mentor. Um, yeah, me and my wife is thinking about starting an organization for kids soon. Fingers crossed. But yeah, we in these communities. We trying to help these little ones grow up better than we did. Trying to keep them off the streets and trying to keep them focused. Hopefully, for myself, I'm hoping to start counseling marriages and relationships soon.
Yes,
It's coming soon. I'm gonna speak it into existence.
I'm in agreement. So, Tyrell, on behalf of New Life LLC and myself, right? I want to present you with this award. It is my New Life Star Award, and it's presented to overcomers and agents of change who uplift and inspire others. So, this, among other gifts, I will be sending to you and my other guests who are there go the camera, who are on the show, and y'all all are probably gonna see this several times, but this is my New Life Star Award. Thank you so much for allowing me to be able to present this to you and acknowledge you, and to thank you for all that you do in the community that you are in, and how you are reaching into the marriage community, the relationship community, and helping others to make their relationships last. Like, it's important. So thank you. And I hope that you do put this somewhere high, take a picture of it, and send it to me when I send it to you. Can you do me a favor now? Can you please tell the audience how they can get your book, where it's at, your social media? Also, it's going to be in the description box below this video, especially if you're watching on YouTube. And if you are watching via social media or a post or a link, it'll be there too. But I would like for you to share your information with the people right now as well.
You can get my book on Amazon, Kindle, Amazon, Audible is on in the Apple Bookstore. You can find it on Goodreads. It's called Marriage: Things to Consider Before Saying I Do. Make sure you leave me a comment, leave me a review. Let me know how you feel about it. You can catch me on I'm in Facebook, same name, Tyrell Madison. On Instagram _Tyrell Madison _. Hit me up. Let me know. Let's have a discussion.
Thank you, Tyrell. And until next time, I'm sending you much love, abundance, peace, and joy, and your gifts. Bye.